For millions of basketball fans, Shaquille O'Neal looked unstoppable. He was one of the most dominant athletes the sport has ever seen, a towering force who overwhelmed defenders, shattered backboards, and filled arenas with laughter. His personality seemed larger than life. Whether he was celebrating a championship, making people laugh on television, or entertaining crowds as DJ Diesel, Shaq always appeared to be enjoying every moment. To the world, he was the definition of confidence, success, and strength, but the public image never revealed the whole man. Long before the championship rings, the business empire, and the Hall of Fame speeches, there was a little boy growing up without the father who brought him into the world. As the years passed, success gave him almost everything money could buy, yet it couldn't erase certain losses, repair broken relationships, or stop the heartbreak that followed him off the court. Behind the smile was someone who would experience family tragedy, painful regrets, public failures, and moments that forever changed the way he looked at life. Shaquille O'Neal's story is not simply about basketball greatness. It is about resilience, forgiveness, and learning that true strength has very little to do with physical size. Throughout his life, he discovered that championships cannot heal every wound. Fame cannot replace the people we lose, and even the strongest individuals carry invisible scars that few ever notice. Today, at 54 years old, Shaquille O'Neal remains one of the most recognizable sports figures on the planet. Yet the man audiences see today is very different from the superstar who once dominated NBA arenas. Years of personal loss, difficult lessons, and honest self-reflection transformed him into someone willing to admit his mistakes and encourage others not to repeat them. This is not only the story of one of basketball's greatest legends, it is the story of a son searching for belonging, a father trying to become the parent he never had, and a man who learned sometimes painfully that the most important victories in life happen far away from the basketball court. Before we begin, if you enjoy inspiring stories about legendary athletes and Hollywood icons, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next documentary. Long before the fame, the championships, and the unforgettable highlights, Shaquille Rashan O'Neal entered the world on March 6, 1972, in Newark, New Jersey. No one could have imagined that the infant in his mother's arms would one day become one of the most dominant athletes in sports history. But from the very beginning, his life was shaped by circumstances far beyond basketball. His biological father struggled with serious personal problems and was absent for most of Shaq's childhood. That absence left questions no child should have to carry. While many young boys dreamed of throwing a ball with their fathers or hearing advice after a difficult day, Shaq had to grow up without those experiences. It was a painful reality, but one that would quietly influence the way he viewed family, responsibility, and success throughout his life. Fortunately, Shaq's mother, Lucille O'Neal, refused to let hardship define her son. Determined to give him a better future, she worked tirelessly to provide stability despite the challenges of raising a child under difficult circumstances. Her strength became one of the greatest influences in Shaq's life, teaching him that resilience often begins with the sacrifices made by those who love us most. Everything changed when Lucille married Army Sergeant Philip Harrison. Harrison was not Shaq's biological father, but he chose to embrace the responsibility of raising him as his own. His approach was strict, disciplined, and demanding. There were rules to follow, respect to earn, and excuses that would never be accepted. At the time, young Shaq didn't always appreciate the discipline, but as he grew older, he realized those lessons were preparing him for challenges far greater than either of them could imagine. Because Harrison served in the U.S. Army, the family relocated frequently, living in different communities before eventually settling in San Antonio, Texas. Constantly moving meant Shaq was often the new kid at school, forced to make new friends and adapt to unfamiliar environments. It wasn't easy, especially because his unusual height made him impossible to ignore. Even as a teenager, Shaq towered over classmates who were years older. His extraordinary size attracted attention everywhere he went. Some admired him, but others mocked him simply because he looked different. Being the tallest student in the room often made him feel isolated rather than confident. Instead of fitting in, he stood out everywhere he went. Philip Harrison recognized that his son's remarkable physical gifts could become either a burden or an opportunity. Rather than allowing Shaq to feel sorry for himself, he pushed him towards sports, believing basketball could give the young giant confidence, discipline, and direction. The lessons were demanding, but Harrison insisted that talent alone would never be enough. Hard work, humility, and accountability mattered just as much. Those values slowly transformed Shaq's mindset. Basketball became more than a game, it became a place where he finally felt accepted. Instead of being criticized for his size, he learned to embrace it. Every practice built confidence. Every game strengthened his belief that what once made him feel different could someday become his greatest advantage. By the time he reached high school in Texas, Shaquille O'Neal was no longer simply a tall teenager. He was becoming one of the most exciting young basketball prospects in America. College recruiters began taking notice, recognizing a rare combination of size, athleticism, and potential that few players had ever possessed. For the first time in his life, the future looked limitless. But neither Shaq nor anyone around him could have predicted just how dramatically that future would change not only his own life, but the game of basketball itself. As Shaquille O'Neal's confidence continued to grow, so did his reputation. By the time he graduated from high school, coaches across the country knew they were looking at a once-in-a-generation athlete. His combination of overwhelming size, quick feet, and surprising agility made him unlike anyone else his age. Scholarship offers poured in, but Shaq chose to continue his journey at Louisiana State University, where he hoped to develop both as a player and as a young man. From the moment he stepped onto LSU's campus, it became clear he was destined for something extraordinary. Opposing teams had no answer for his physical presence around the basket. He could score with power, control the rebounds, and intimidate opponents simply by standing in the paint. Fans packed arenas just to witness the phenomenon everyone was talking about. Every season, his name appeared among the nation's best players, and NBA scouts rarely missed one of his games. Despite his growing fame, Shaq never forgot the sacrifices his family had made to help him reach that point. Basketball represented more than personal success. It was an opportunity to create financial security for the people who had believed in him from the beginning. Every practice and every game brought him one step closer to achieving that dream. By 1992, there was little doubt about what would happen next. When the NBA draft arrived, the Orlando Magic selected Shaquille O'Neal with the first overall pick. It was a franchise-changing decision. Orlando had found the superstar it hoped would transform a young organization into a championship contender. Shaq entered the league carrying enormous expectations, but he wasted no time proving he belonged. During his rookie season, he displayed a level of dominance rarely seen from a first-year player. He combined remarkable athleticism with incredible strength, overpowering experienced veterans who had spent years competing at the highest level. Night after night, arenas filled with fans eager to witness basketball's newest sensation. What truly separated Shaq from everyone else wasn't just his statistics, it was the way he played. His dunks were explosive, often leaving defenders helpless as he powered through double teams. On several occasions, the force of his finish damaged basketball equipment, creating unforgettable moments that quickly spread across television broadcasts and sports headlines. His style wasn't elegant. It was overwhelming. Watching Shaq play felt like watching nature itself take over a basketball game. His remarkable rookie season earned him NBA Rookie of the Year honors and established him as one of the league's brightest young stars. More importantly, it convinced basketball fans that they were witnessing the beginning of something special. As Orlando continued building around its young center, another talented player emerged alongside him, Anthony Penny Hardaway. Together, they formed one of the NBA's most exciting duos. Shaq dominated near the basket while Penny dazzled with his speed, creativity, and playmaking ability. Their chemistry energized the franchise and gave fans hope that a championship was within reach. That dream became reality sooner than anyone expected. In 1995, the Orlando Magic reached the NBA Finals for the first time in franchise history. The team was young, talented, and fearless. Many believed basketball's next dynasty had arrived, but the finals introduced Shaq to one of the greatest lessons of his career. Standing on the opposite side was Hakeem Olajuwon, one of the most skilled centers the game had ever seen. While Shaq relied on overwhelming power, Olajuwon demonstrated patience, precision, and years of experience. The Houston Rockets swept Orlando in 4 games, leaving the young superstar disappointed but wiser. That heartbreaking defeat didn't define Shaquille O'Neal, it transformed him. For the first time in his young career, he realized that raw power alone wasn't enough to conquer the NBA. Championships demanded experience, discipline, and constant growth. The loss to Houston stayed with him long after the final buzzer, becoming the fuel that pushed him to chase something even greater. Within a year, Shaq made the biggest decision of his career, leaving Orlando for the bright lights of Los Angeles. It was a move that shocked basketball fans, divided opinions across the league, and set the stage for one of the greatest dynasties in NBA history. There, he would meet a fearless teenage guard named Kobe Bryant. Together, they would win championships, dominate the sport, and become one of basketball's most unforgettable duos. But behind the trophies and celebrations, a rivalry was quietly growing, one that would eventually change both of their lives forever.